In mid-September of 1814, a letter was received by William C.C. Claiborne, which was the governor of Louisiana. To his surprise, it was from a man he detested, John Lafitte, ruler of the island Grande Terre in the Bay of Barataria near the mouth of the Mississippi River.
Lafitte had grown powerful and wealthy as a pirate who preyed on the English, Spanish, and American commerce. Before this happened, in 1813, Claiborne had posted a notice declaring a reward for $500 to anyone who seized his brigand.
An offer of $5,000 to anyone who delivers Claiborne to me at Grande Terre.
After this happened, Lafitte retaliated by posting around New Orleans an offer of $5,000 to anyone who delivered Claiborne to him at Grande Terre. A year later, the pirate then sent the letter to Claiborne with an offer to side with the Americans if he and his men were granted pardon for his offenses. The British opened an attack on the U.S. coming up the Chesapeake. They ran the government out of Washington City and burned much of the city, including the White House and the Capitol.
They also planned to invade the Gulf of Mexico, where the greatest gift was getting New Orleans. Jackson took his soldiers and locals and headed to New Orleans to organize a strong defense against British attack. The society thought of him as the man of poise, relaxed style, and charisma.
In late 1814, New Orleans was home to a population of French, Spanish, African, Anglo, and Creole peoples. This city offered a tempting prize to the British military that was still buoyant over the burning of Washington, D.C.
To take control of the city, Admiral Sir Alexander Cochrane, the British commander, sent out more than 50 ships to transport. In the battle, Jackson used 3,000 men to hold off twice as many British troops, who made a mass assault, taking over 2,000 casualties.
The citizens of southern Louisiana turned to Major General Andrew Jackson for protection. He arrived in New Orleans in the late fall of 1814 and prepared defenses along the areas of approach. Jackson also accepted the help of local pirate John Lafitte and 600 free blacks of New Orleans.
In the battle, Jackson used 3,000 men to hold off twice as many British troops, who made the mass assault, taking over 2,000 casualties.
Surrender!
The first part of the battle ended when Jackson called off the attack and his men returned to their defensive positions along the Rodriguez Canal. This was the result of the British having an advance guard of 1,500 men, which moved forward and captured the Villers plantation. At that point, Jackson ordered an attack on the British positions. The Americans had partial success, but British held their line.
The two sides then spent 2 weeks preparing for this battle to rekindle. The British received a new commander, whose name was Lieutenant General Sir Edward Pakenham, who came up with the plan for a direct assault on the center of American lines.
Jackson and his men were ready at their defensive positions of 4,000 men, including cannons. At the last minute, Jackson switched his positioning to the exact spot the British were planning to aim at. As dawn broke, the British charged.
Once the British attacked, America was too prepared and their artillery wreaked havoc on them. Pakenham attempted to rally his men and continue to charge while his horse was shot from under him and he was wounded. Eventually, the general died on the battlefield within an hour of the battle was over. 3 British generals and 8 colonial were included in 251 British that were killed. The Americans sustained 13 killed, 39 injured, and 19.
To sum it up, the U.S. declared war, fought for their lives, lost much along the way, and ended up having to sign a treaty for the old status quo. This war was the main personal factor that put Jackson in the White House for 14 years.
The battle, which took place after the Treaty of Ghent was signed, effectively ended the war. The tragedy of this battle is that it happened after the peace treaty had ended the war.